That's our story for the the President Mahama and the court. Now, let's move on to our next story, which is about President John Dramani Mahama yet. So news is just coming through and it's filtering to newsrooms, and people are getting quite excited about it. For us who are political animals, political reporters, we are getting excited about it because the season is coming. The season of reason for us political reporters is coming, and we're going to have a lot of work to do and a lot to share with you, our viewers, from across radio stations, online, and all of that. So the story just came in that Sam Jonah KBE, and that's how I like to refer to him, as I keep saying, it's Sam Jonah KBE, but they call him here, Sir Sam Jonah, is tipped to be John Mahama's running mate for 2024 elections. So we're going to read that story, and I'm telling you, this story is causing a lot of consternation in all the newsrooms, and everyone making phone calls and checking what the interpretation they should put on it, etc. We are doing the same thing, so we're chewing on it. I'm sure as it's on social media, people can comment and tell us what they know. There may be people out there who have more of the gist than we do, don't you? So if you do, just share with us on our Facebook page. So there's been conversations about whether President Mahama should maintain Jane Ano Opoku-Agyeman. Recently, as a result of those pressures, the learned Kwame Nahoy spoke about it and said that President Mahama should maintain Jane Ano Opoku-Agyeman. Of course, that came as no surprise to anyone because we know Professor Jane Ano Opoku-Agyeman's relationship with the Ahoy brothers and Radio Gold and all that. We know that. So that came as no surprise. Nonetheless, Kwame Nahoy appears to have made a valid point, didn't he? He made the point about the sale factor of Jane Ano Opoku-Agyeman already sold out earlier on as Minister of Education, now as running mate for President Mahama in 2020 elections. So there's a bit of momentum that is with her. Okay, but there are people in the party who are looking at the election of 2024 and thinking that it's going to be very complicated, especially if the NPP were to elect Alhaji Muhammadu Bawumia. That's going to bring a divide of the vote in the north and the northern areas and all of that. And it's a divide that may swing one way or the other. At the end of 2024, it may well be that Dr. Bawumia would have taken more northern votes than President Mahama. It may be that President Mahama would have taken more. Whatever it is, it's going to be a major split in what would have been an NDC contained area. That's the problem. That's what that's the conversation they're having. What would have originally been an NDC contained area, it would appear that if Dr. Bawumia becomes the MPP candidate, there's going to be a major split in northern votes. Never mind Dr. Bawumia being a Muslim as well. That's all of those dynamics are being discussed. So people are telling President Mahama that you need to really consolidate, okay? If you're choosing a running mate, you have to choose a running mate who is going to grab you a constituency. Not necessarily a parliamentary constituency, but a significant political constituency. You don't pick a running mate who is, quote and unquote, bringing very little. You have to select a running mate who is bringing something significant. So you have to have a think again about Jane Ano Opoku-Agyeman and see whether you can do something about it. You want a fancy? Yeah, there are some fancies in there. K.S. Olatu Forson is a minority leader. He's come up. But the big fish in there, the elephant in the room, Sam Jonah. Now, later on we'll discuss. Who is Sam Jonah KBE? Now, what constituency does Sam Jonah KBE represent? Which then will be a significant push. There are several of them. But the most significant constituency is that Sam Jonah knows rich people around the world. What is the most important commodity that John Mahama is looking for today? It is money, isn't it? All politicians is money. Sam Jonah controls, among Ghanaians, he may be the one who knows more rich people outside Ghana than many other Ghanaians. You can give him that. So, if he has that ability, and if he is interested in politics, which of course Sam Jonah is completely is, many instances where he's demonstrated interest in politics, but also he's shown some interest in talking to the youth and changing the dynamics of Ghana and all of that. There may be good sides, there may be very bad sides. That's not a conversation for today. But that's Sam Jonah. That's what he represents. So the average person looks at Sam Jonah. That's what he represents. Now let's look at the story. And you see strands of this narrative in the story right now. Let's have a look. Okay. So this are two men together as they may be on the ballot box in 2024, on the ballot paper in 2024, Sam Jonah and President Mahama. Okay. Here is a story. The name of Ghanaian business mogul and current Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Sam Jonah, 73, has come up as a front-runner for the John Dramani Mahama's running mate nomination for the 2024 presidential race. The National Democratic Congress last month elected the former president once again and most of their parliamentary candidates for next year's general elections. The one big slot left is who partners John Mahama. Whoever gets the slot will be awarded pole position to lead the party in the 2024, whether the opposition party wins in 2024 or not. I think they meant 2028. Whoever gets the nod will be in pole position to lead the party in 2028. But I don't know whether that fits the Sam Jonah model, because Sam Jonah is already 73, isn't he? As the story says, much older than President Mahama. And if President Mahama does not win with Sam Jonah in 2024, the story is suggesting that whoever becomes President Mahama's running mate will have pole position in the NDC. I doubt that very much. But on that point, this will be a ticket that will excite the NDC presidential hopefuls. This is a ticket that will excite them. Why? Because Sam Jonah is not going to be able to lead the party if President Mahama is not there. If President Mahama's candidature has expired by law, Sam Jonah is not going to be able to marshal the social resources to lead the NDC. So it's going to be an even kill for them. I'm talking about Alexander Segbefia, Dr. Mane Boama, Keselatu Fosin, Haruna Idrisu, that group of people, all of them, that line of next round of leaders. They are going to be excited that it's none of them partnering President Mahama, because whoever partners President Mahama gets an advantage over the rest. President Mahama is going to do only one term. Whether he wins or he loses is one term. So one term is very short. So that's all of those people are going to be dramatically excited by this ticket. Before, they were excited by Jenna Opoku-Agyeman, but now she's gained some ground, and she may be a potential, offer for a presidential ticket. Once she's done the running mate slot twice, she can say she wants to do it, and it will make sense. She's been minister, she's been vice president, she wants to be president. It falls on the ladder like that, isn't it? So the Sam Jonah ticket is going to be more exciting to all of those key insiders around President Mahama, because they are coming next. So neither of them is in there. Sam Jonah is in there. He's just coming to do a pure technocrat's job. He's a big man. He's vice president. He's finished 4 years. He's not going to think of being president. At least we're not within the NDC. So that's the story that we need to think about and see how it goes on and on and on. Okay. Elements within the NDC and the campaign team of Mr. Mahama, who spoke to Asase News, are convinced that among the several names being considered by the NDC flag bearer, Sir Sam appears to be one of those highly tipped to get the nod. This may not go down well with some purists, since Sir Sam is not known as a card-bearing member of the party founded by the late Jerry John Rawlings. He had, however, grown over the last decade as Mr. Mahama's key advisor and a major facilitator of the NDC Leaders International Business Network. Really? Okay. A source close to Sir Sam, when contacted by Asase News, expressed no surprise to the news, adding that ahead of the 2012 presidential election, moves were made to the former CEO of the now defunct Ashanti Gold with Mr. Mahama, but Sir Sam politely declined. Interesting. This matter was on the cards in 2012 when Park Hussein-Misata became, when President Mahama was in the seat as president. This is all very interesting, isn't it? But the bond between the two have grown, with John Mahama's younger brother and businessman Ibrahim Mahama playing a strong role in the relationship. Just 2 weeks ago, the two, John Mahama, President Mahama, and Sam Jonah, were spotted together in East Asian states of South Korea, where Mr. Jonah introduced the NDC's 2024 presidential candidate to his rich network of contacts over there. I told you, didn't I? I told you that all of these is going to come together like that. So this is a story that we're going to keep an eye on, isn't it? That's our second John Mahama story. We take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at the NDC at 31. Then maybe Ekweku can take some text messages as well. We'll be right back.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. With portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVs, you are assured of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It's a self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility. Call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people.
Done. He dribbles to the right. He's got an opportunity on the edge of the penalty box. He's gone past the defense. This must surely be it. Goal! It's a goal!
With only 1 cedi 50 pesos, you can win up to 16.5 million Ghana cedis in the Betway Atina Ketia Jackpot. A jackpot muhine. Bet responsibly, not for persons under the age of 18. This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana.
JA Plant Food Ghana Limited has introduced the all-new Jetto X70 Plus to the market. Jetto X70 Plus is a modern, spacious family SUV with a stylish design, advanced technology, and outstanding quality that promises you luxury with affordability. Jetto X70 Plus comes with an exceptional engine warranty of 4 years or 100,000 kilometers, giving you the ultimate peace of mind for years to come. And our dedicated service center at JA Plant Food offers you a wide range of car services and world-class customer support. Be exclusive and outstanding. Get yourself the all-new Jetto X70 Plus. Get in touch with JA Plant Food Ghana Limited on 020-0000-831 or info@japlantfoodgh.com. Visit japlantfoodgh.com for more information. Yamawakwaba the button Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories. Ahadie e bano KSC ne ho akadia. Ubenya bibie bi wa ha. Ka bia ne how ene ne ohia. Yenso ye wo ho animdefo a obeso anu yi ama. Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories ye dwumedie de. Eye 24/7 o. Ye siesie wo engine, wo brake, battery, yesesa wo tire. Se bano car wash dia. Je wo abefun fidie bi ti se steamer ye de horo car engine abra nsuo nko engine nim ye san ye detailing metre se ye betwetwe car no mu ba bia ma o ye wi a ya san polish car na ma o kama enye we no nko ye san to car batteries, tires, rims, any de keke kan Manadum Auto Fix and Accessories ema wo car ensi ne dedem na nwu adwuma ma o hwehwe ye chira kwan wo dansoma na sorry dan ho a ene KFC bon hwanimu e won kran se wo information anansem bi se bia Frezo 24-651-9369. Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories. Ukwan so yonkwo papa.
African Origin Travels and Sports Tourism, Morocco Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations Sports Vacation Rabat 2023. Just pay 5,000 Ghana cedis to secure your visa application process and holiday. Sports tourism packages include visa application support, visa fee, accommodation, transportation to and out of airport, games and tour ticket, a return flight ticket, daily tour in Rabat, Tangier and Marrakesh. Travel from June 20th to July 15th, 2023. Note, secure your package with a deposit of 5,000 cedis only and pay the rest later. Requirements: just get your passport, birth certificate and Ghana card only. Call 0302-766-766, 0544-322-112, 0544-347-002, 0544-347-003 and 0540-124-387. African Origin Travel and Sports Tourism, Morocco Under-23 African Cup of Nations Sports Vacation Rabat 2023. Apply now.
Do you need a place with a stunning view and serene environment just beneath the Green Mountains with a commercial center and recreational area with an amazing park? Then look no further.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Welcome to Rehoboth Havens, the most affordable yet luxurious gated community located in Damfa, Accra. We have 2 and 3 bedroom houses with spacious park. Let me show you. All of our rooms come with beautiful porcelain tiles, durable fitted kitchen cabinets,
constant water supply,
electricity and water 24/7.
I'm buying this house. Stop processing my papers. Move it. If you're living in Ghana and want an affordable and luxurious house to buy, look no further than Rehoboth Social Housing Limited. Oh, and to those from the diaspora, aren't you tired of living in places that doesn't belong to you? You can also own your house and be your own landlord from Rehoboth Social Housing Limited. I have my own, Bosu Landlord.
Contact us now. Rehoboth Social Housing. Your housing dream becomes reality.
Let's get ready to rumble! And welcome the King of the Rings 3, Ebeye Brutal. Introducing Super Flyweight WBC silver title, Tasif Khan from England versus David Barreto from Venezuela. Light heavyweight Victor Benedict and super middleweight Ezra Ayerenka, both from Nigeria, fighting for African Boxing Union belts. Female bantamweight title, Adijat Badamosi from Nigeria versus Patience Mastara from Zimbabwe. Super lightweight title, Tarzan Balmoda from Kazakhstan versus Issa Aliya Firi from Zimbabwe. Super middleweight title, Prince Okonate from Ghana versus Adam Anone from Cote d'Ivoire. In the WBC and WBO title fights, live at the Bukwang Boxing Arena, Friday, 16 June 2023, 3 p.m. sharp. Rates: regular 100 cedis, standard 250 cedis, VIP 500 cedis, and a VVIP 750 cedis. Go to egoticket.com. Performing artists are Stoneboy, Medical, Beton, Jume B, Sea Prince, and many more. Ebeye Brutal.
So from Facebook Live, we are going to interact with some of the text messages. So from Alba City says, watching you live from Upper West Wa, continue educating us masses, more grease to your elbows. I'm referring to your entire crew. Thank you, Alba City. From Jacob Kuli Bali, he says, good evening, Paul, my godfather. Indeed, you are a hero and we have to celebrate you. From Master Planner, he says, Paul, thanks for always bringing clarity to current issues in Ghana. This is why I sacrifice my sleep to learn from your program. God bless you abundantly. Greetings to Lawyer Jerry Ahmed, incoming Wager Bawi MP. This is rather on an interesting note. From Alex Nyako, he says, Paul, let's ask this for clarity. Did President Mahama receive ex gratia as president after 2012 general elections? If yes, did he take it as president or ex-vice president? If as president, then he has taken 2-term ex gratia as president. To check that for us. That is rather interesting. Moving on to you.
Okay, so this coming from Stephen Kweku Abuaja. He says, the NDC party will lose 2024 elections. Mr. Mahama has been in politics for more than 30 years. What transformational policies has Mr. Mahama ever brought to benefit all Ghanaians? Nothing to show. The NDC party and Mr. Mahama must give us a break. Greetings to Dr. Baumia. Bennett Dansu says, good evening, Paula Demotre. I'm totally surprised at the hints of a JM and says Sam Jonah 2024 ticket. I hope that is not true because I'm not even sure that Sam Jonah will take that offer. Stephen Kweku Awaji again says, good evening, Paul. Whether Sam Jonah or Nana Jane, Mr. Mahama and the NDC party will lose 2024 elections. Greetings to Collins, a champion. Ayag Banaba lastly says, good evening, Paul. In fact, the NPP is out to break the 8 and make history, and we in the Bulsa South constituency is poised to take the seat from the NDC come 2024. The constituents are descending because they made a mistake by exchanging their color TV for black and white. Keep doing the Lord's work by telling Ghanaians the truth. Over to you.
All right. So Lily says, Sam Jonah is already dead on arrival. What did he do in Obuasi? He enriched himself and ran away to South Africa to own his own business. Yes, so Nixon Asian says, in every rumor there is an iota of truth. The NDC are just confused and not knowing the best running mate to partner Mr. Mahama. For their nominal votes, analysis like that of just the ended Kumawu by-elections. Dr. Sam Jonah has no leverage for them to count on. There's no constituency in this country that can boldly say he has a footprint there. Solomon says, haha, Sam who? What did he do with Obuasi Gold Fields? How did South Africa topple Obuasi Gold Fields? It would be interesting to know how he got the title of OBE. And lastly, Samuel Ofosu says, good evening, Paulers and your students. As regards to the NDC vice presidential candidate, I think ex-president Mahama is building castles in the air. Says Sam Jonas was the executive director of Anglo Gold of Obuasi, who could not manage it and collapsed it. Otumfuo salted for at his regime and assistance, and they replied, Nana Otumfuo, the company cannot validate $1 American. How then should he be chosen as a running mate? Well, quite interesting opinions on the choice of running mate from our president. Over to you, Paul.
Well, before that, Idris Abdullahi says that I don't know which the day he's referring to, but he says they should stop this. We Ghanaian citizens love JM. His legacy can never be forgotten. They should stop bringing fire to this country. Kweku Aduma says, Paul, I was happy to welcome our vice president in the UK. I was at a program last Saturday night, but stayed in Luton, a student at University of Westminster, London. Richmond Bonsu says, John Mahama will surely come back no matter what happens. The second coming is automatic and is real. Nothing can change it. Chekpeche Foster says Mahama will win the 2024 elections hands down. Okay, we've got some positive messages coming in. George Osuansa says they should leave him alone. He's the easiest candidate to beat. And Albasit sees from what he says, watch you live from Upper East. Continue educating us, the message, of course. And this message here says, can you educate us about what will let Jaji Kwasin contest or not contest the upcoming Assin North by-election? This is from Carlos Kamal. Well, that's an interesting question. Thank you very much for that, Carlos Kamal. Let's get back to Paul. Let's hear what he has for us.
Okay, nice text messages were in there, and welcome back. Now we're talking about the National Democratic Congress is 31 years old, and when we say NDC, this is the NDC, isn't it? I'm going to tonight pay tribute to some great NDC people, or I'm going to look at this in some historical perspectives and talk about a few NDC matters. I have some historical videos as well to share with you, those of you who are political animals like me and you are interested in the story. So I'm going to roll out the key people in the NDC and talk a little bit about them. Then I'm going to show the NDC presidents and vice presidents and talk a little bit about them. And then I'll contrast with the MPP vice president and president and talk a little bit about them. And then we'll wrap up this segment of the story. It's always exciting. Okay, the beginnings of the NDC, how it started, who got it started, who said what, and who didn't say what, is told to me in a narrative out of a conversation I had with Dr. Obed Asamoah. Who else but Dr. Obed Asamoah knows the ethos of the NDC more than many people. And he had this conversation with me. This is what he said. It's just a video that's only about 2 minutes, but it tells the whole story about the beginnings of the NDC. Have a look.
First of all, there was an argument within the PNDC as to whether we could just return the country to constitutional rule or whether the PNDC should promote a political party. And I was one of the advocates of the PNDC promoting a political party. I'd always been against the idea of the military by themselves ruling. I advocated very strongly that we should try and set up a political party which will promote the values of the PNDC. I said it's not enough just to get out of office. You know, we should, if you believe in what you are doing and you believe that those values were worth continuing, then we should set up a party that will continue those values. You see, eventually it was agreed upon. So we started working. And again, I advised my colleagues, I said, look, the PPA had been there, they have a tradition. The CPP have been there, they have a tradition. They have a network. We don't have any. So let us set up a network before we lift the ban. You see? So at the time so they said, okay, it's your idea. You go and set up the network. So I laid with the foundation for the party before the ban of political parties was lifted. So when it was lifted, we were ready to go. You see? So it took a lot of people by surprise. How a small party like that became so big. You know.
As the revered Dr. Obed Asamoah giving us the beginnings of the party that we're celebrating today, the largest opposition party in Ghana right now, many times in government, celebrating also the commitment of Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings and the leadership of Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. This was the marriage, a social marriage, but this was also the political marriage that birthed the National Democratic Congress. Without the connection between these two people, it would have been very difficult for the NDC to have been birthed. But this was the story. This was a photograph. It's a love story of a man and a woman socially, but it's also a very important story of two people who connect politically very, very well. And they did so to give birth to the National Democratic Congress. Unfortunately, today JJ has passed, but gratuitously, Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings is still with us. Now, let's move on to Kojo Chikata, another one of those who was very instrumental in setting up, not the NDC, but the regime security of the NDC. Captain Chikata himself is an avowed Nkrumahist, everyone knows that, and he was never really a member of the National Democratic Congress. He was, however, the founder of the NCP, the Nkrumahist party, that came to do an alliance with the NDC. But his own alliance, philosophical and ideological alliance with Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, led him to sort of remain, even when the likes of Kon Kensenaka had walked out of the alliance and got very angry with the NDC. Captain Chikata remained because of his connection with J.J. Rawlings. Eventually, he himself was chucked out of the NDC in 1997, and he had been on retirement until he unfortunately passed a few years ago. So he's also very, very important because he gave the regime stability. He transferred the regime stability of the PNDC to the NDC and gave the NDC that kind of stability. In doing so, and credits to him, in doing so, he also did secure the Fourth Republic. That's very important because if the first NDC government had collapsed under a coup d'etat, even though opposition would have celebrated it, that would have destroyed the Fourth Republic. Whatever is bad about the Fourth Republic has lasted for 31 years. If you look at it in some critical detail, you have to give Captain Chikata credit for donating the regime security of the PNDC to the first NDC government and thereby sustaining the Fourth Republic to the second NDC government, and eventually Ghanaians changed power democratically. So Captain Chikata has a very important role for us to remember. Kon Kensenaka is here, and it's interesting because we have to say that he also gave stability to the NDC by accepting, even though Reverend Kweku Boateng said he will not accept it, in Kensenaka, by accepting to be the running mate of Flight Lieutenant Rawlings in 1992, the Nkrumahist parties joined the NDC and gave the NDC that grassroots strength that was usually associated with the CPP. You have to credit Kon Kensenaka for giving that symbol of the Nkrumahist unity with the NDC, even though in reality it's not. But the symbolism that he sold to the Ghanaian public in 1992, and you know 1992 is a long time ago. 1992 is not that far from the last Nkrumahist government in 1978. Many people who were alive and kicking in 1978 were also alive in 1992. So the Nkrumahist euphoria was very, very important for that election. These days, Nkrumahist euphoria has completely evaporated, and many people are sad about that. But in 1992, the Nkrumahist euphoria was there. I believe that Komla Gbedema was still alive. The first finance minister of Kwame Nkrumah was still alive. He was still active in politics, Komla Gbedema. And a lot of all the big CPP guys were still alive. They were around. I believe Kobedusa was still around. So the Botio was certainly, Botio was, I think he was around as well in 1992, Kojo Botio. So the Nkrumahist fever was around. And the NDC needed to capitalize on that because the UP was not going to be able to get it. They got it in '96 nonetheless, but the UP was not able to get, was not going to easily get the Nkrumah support. And so, whereas the Nkrumah support was still available, Nkensi was the reason why the NDC was able to hold on to it. And credit to him on that one, isn't it? Okay, PV Obeng. Now, the NDC, as we know, is an amalgamation of right-wing people and left-wing people. Is the Nkrumah tradition and the UP tradition. And they come together, and it's also like a bit of a tribal mix. And there was always an important Ashanti element. J.J. Rawlings ensured, I'm not so sure whether it's because of his wife, but there was always an important Ashanti nucleus in the NDC. That's what, I don't know these days whether they've lost that. But NDC always had a very important Ashanti nucleus that was holding the middle of the party very, very strong in Ashanti, and therefore the NDC's relation, historical NDC, I don't know about today, the historical NDC's relationship with the Menchia Palace, places like that, and other important towns in the Mampong, and those places, Kumeu and all of those places, were particularly strong. Rawlings ensured somehow that the bone of the NDC, the spinal cord of the NDC will emerge from Ashanti. And who else was this nucleus surrounding? It was PV Obeng. PV Obeng was the most important guy from Akokre in Obuasi who sort of gave the NDC its Ashantiness. And that was very important for them to secure at least 30% of the votes in 1992, 30% of the votes in 1996, and 28% in 2008, all of which turned out to be critical in the eventual victory of the NDC. And PV, you have to credit with giving the NDC that. I'm not so sure whether the NDC still have that. But PV Obeng was particularly instrumental. Very, very, very big brain. PV was a very big brain. He could speak off the cuff and extempo and still make a lot of sense. He was an original thinker in many ways. And he was also chairman of Asante Kotoko. So, you know that PV Obeng was great, wasn't he? All right. So that's all part of the NDC story. Now, why do I put the three of them together? It's just so beautiful. Recently, I did something about the Ahoy brothers on this show. And I said something about, I think, each of them. The next day, I got a call from Kwesi Ahoy. Now, Kwesi is the one on the extreme right. So I saw his number. So I picked up. I said, oh, Uncle Kwesi, I knew somehow I was in trouble or something like that. But I picked up anyway. I said, Uncle Kwesi, hi. He said, oh, Paul, then he spoke in Fanti. And then I knew something was wrong. I said, oh, Uncle Kwesi, I was in the year program, being a Mizin. I said, oh, yeah, I did. And I didn't say anything bad about him. I will never say anything bad about Uncle Kwesi Ahoy. So I said, yeah, I did. I mentioned your name. And he said, oh, now why there? He reduced me age. Then I paused. I said, what's he talking about? I said, Uncle Kwesi, me reduce age then. He said, what's a cat there? Me Kwame Nani junior brother. And I said, yes, that's what I said. So, oh, now Kwame Nani, that's why a small boy. Then I said, oh, Uncle Kwesi, no, who you feel? He said, I'm trying to know if pa. So that was my conversation with Kwesi Ahoy. But these three Ahoy brothers were also very, very strong, especially in terms of their commitment to the NDC. I'll tell you another story that somebody told me. You know, I interviewed Kwame Ahoy. Oh, I need to get this interview. Okay. I should have told my producer. I interviewed Kwame Ahoy on this documentary. He was talking about how Professor Mills emerged and all of that. And in the narration, Kwame Ahoy told me that Harry Sawyer had been talking about Professor Mills when Professor Mills had lost the election to become Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana by 1 vote to, I believe, Professor Ivan Adai Mensah at the time. Professor Harry Sawyer, who was Education Minister, was telling the cabinet that Professor Mills was a great guy who would be the better Vice Chancellor than the one who has been elected, and therefore government should veto the votes from the University Council and put Professor Mills there. And then Kwame Ahoy, in giving me this narration, said to me that somebody in the room then said that that's not possible under the Constitution. The government cannot do that under the 1992 Constitution. Then Kwame Ahoy said to me, the conversation then ended and Obed Samuel left. And so the way Harry Sawyer was talking about Professor Mills, he then went to Obed Samuel and then got Jerry involved and all of that. Then Professor Mills came. But the moral of the story, somebody called me and said that Kwame Ahoy was being modest. And I said, why? He said it was him who told Harry Sawyer that under the Constitution you can't do that. But he told you, somebody in the room, it was he himself. I said, oh, wow. Yeah, Kwame Nahor is a very modest guy. So, but it's a big brain, big legal brain, very, very big brain. He ran local government. I mean, we've had our disagreements with him over whether DC should be elected politically or not. He's very, very strong on his views, and you have to respect Kwame Nahor for his passion for the local government thing. He's very strong on his views that there should be, it should be a non-partisan election. We will continue our disagreements with him every now and then. Ato Ahoy, they used to call him Don King when Professor Mills was around, but he was one of the important backbones of Professor Mills' administration. And of course, those in MPP who like Reku Borough always refer to Ato Ahoy as his godfather in the energy sector and all of that. So Ato Ahoy has been very instrumental, very political. And Kwesi Ahoy is the nice one. He's not the youngest, please, so that he doesn't call me tomorrow. He's not the youngest. He comes after Ato Ahoy, and Kwame Nahor is the youngest. But Kwesi is the most handsome, if you like. Okay, they are all handsome, but Kwesi is handsome, pa. So the Ahoy brothers also have significantly contributed to the NDC. This is somebody people don't talk about. When it comes to the history of the NDC, Kojo Yankah is one of those that gave the NDC a soft image, its intellectual and calm image. Because NDC is a military thing, you know, PNDC is military. So Rawlings is always wearing green and all that. When the government was set up in 1992, I think Kojo Yankah must have joined sometime around there. When Kojo Yankah became the Minister for Information, you see, he gave the NDC that thing that they didn't have. They were brutes and brawn, and Kojo Yankah gave the different image. Even earlier information ministers like Totobi Kwachi and Joyce Ayi, who was a woman, she was unable to do that because the guns were around her. She's a woman, but somebody's holding a gun behind her. So really, they couldn't. But and the image of gunnism around NDC was in the people's minds. You have to credit Kojo Yankah for being the one who softened, gave the NDC the soft, I can listen to you, please listen to me as well, let's talk about it. That was new. I mean, NDC is not like that. NDC is RSM Frimpong, Ejebwedi, and you know, they are coming after you. They are coming at you like that. Kojo Yankah then gave the NDC that image. I believe that's what accounted for the election, the victory of the NDC in 1996. After the NDC was tested in the first 4 years of the Fourth Republic, the first NDC government, they were tested by Ghanaians. Ghanaians give Rawlings another opportunity because people like Kojo Yankah came in very strongly, and they changed the image of the NDC. So those little things, and they brought the fancy thing and the central region thing, and they just sort of donated it to the NDC. The central region had been held by the CPP, by the way, at all material times in elections until 1992, even including 1992, Colonel Banasco and all that. That those people, they held the central region. Kwame Nkrumah held it. So the Kojo Yankahs were able to then donate the central region to the NDC. And eventually Akufo-Addo took it from them anyway. And Akufo-Addo is still holding on to it, isn't it? We'll see what happens in 2024 and what happens in Asin North a few days from now. But you have to credit Kojo Yankah for that. Kojo, good evening and thank you for that. Dr. Christina Mwakunwama, one of the key Ashantis who as a woman held the Ministry of Education. Her time at the Ministry of Education was the most brutal. Residential user fees, the HND was introduced. She had to grade the HND. She went to Parliament and said HND is spelled with a small h and uproar among students. She had a difficult time. The university's medical school was changing. They were now writing entry exams at Legon. All of those things happened during the time of Christina Mwakunwama. And I think that she survived it. She did well for the NDC. Ekos Spielgabra, quite controversial, but very intelligent. I mean, you can say anything about Spielgabra, but you have to say that he's very, very, very intelligent. Ekos Spielgabra is particularly sharp. So, I mean, he gave the NDC, he's so sharp that he conducted, those days, they used to say, the MPP used to brag and boast that they were the intellectuals and the NDC were not. Spielgabra put a who and who together, a book, who is who in the NDC, and gave the profile of every NDC person. The NDC needed to do that. In those days, they needed it because the MPP had sold themselves as an intellectual class. The Ghana Bar Association, the big people, they speak correct English, and that was so driven that the NDC had to come very hard to say that we are also doctor, we also know book, we are also book people, because it was becoming difficult. And people were suspecting that in the years ahead, the MPP were going to win the elections on account of that if the NDC didn't do something about it. And so Spielgabra, it fell on Spielgabra, and he took it upon himself to dramatically change that image. Himself, Tony Edu, all the intellectuals that came forth, they took it upon themselves to change that image. So you have to give that to Ecos Spiogabra. Auntie Fosti, wow, Faustina Nelson. You can't take Faustina Nelson away. She started with the CPP and all that, and now she joined the NDC. It is who said in 1996, in terms of campaign talk, you can't take that from Faustina Nelson. She's a correct, typical CPP girl, and they know how to talk campaign talk. She said if the MPP want power, they should go and drink Guinness. At that time, Guinness had launched this Guinness the Power, and all the billboards were there, Guinness the Power. And J.H. Mensah had spoken in an MPP, I actually have the video, but we didn't know it, this conversation will get there. J.H. Mensah had spoken at an MPP Congress and had advocated this chorus, "We want power, we want power." And so he went round. So during a rally, and Jerry Rawlings was at this rally, Faustina Nelson was speaking and said that she had heard that MPP said they want power. No power there, and no power there, Guinness. And everybody laughed, and it became wild. And Guinness even acknowledged that Faustina Nelson had grown their sale, and they went to her shop and all of that. So in terms of campaign talk, and then she set up the Veranda Boys and Girls to mimic the kinds of campaigns they used to do in the CPP and all of that. She really gave the NDC something. Sometimes when I look at the NDC today, for those of us who have covered politics for that long, I worry a little bit, because if you look at where the party is coming from, in terms of the actors, that's the most important thing. The actors of the NDC then, and if you look at the actors today, wow. Anyway, I think both parties have suffered a little bit, but some places are, and the thing with NDC is that some of their key people are still around. But the conflict that is going on since Professor Mills died, it's really not been resolved. Maybe one day it will be resolved, but right now, since the death of Professor Mills, the NDC has not been together like they were when Professor Mills was alive. J.J. Rawlings packed his bag and left this one, everybody pass here, all that. But then some of the important people are around and they don't get contacted. Like E.T. Mensah, he always complains, he doesn't get contacted. E.T. Mensah was one of the key backbones of the NDC in Greater Accra region. And he moved as if he was a soldier. E.T. has never been a soldier before. But when he was mayor of Accra, he moved like that. And in terms of loyalty to Rawlings, I mean, you can't beat it. And E.T. Mensah coined some of the campaign songs. That song, the song I've been singing, what is it called? I'll get to come. E.T. Mensah coined it at the Accra Sports Stadium during a rally. He coined all those JJ songs. E.T. Mensah coined them. And he will move. He knows how to, he has voice, he can move. So to some extent, a bit of the violence of the NDC, he will have to take the blame for it. But in terms of making the NDC a mass-based party, you can't take that away from E.T. Mensah. The organizational capacity to organize and make the NDC a mass party in those days and to cover every ground in Greater Accra for the NDC, E.T. Mensah stands tall, and nobody can take that away from him. So that's part of the history of this is Justice D.F. Annan. There's no more beautiful brain than Justice Annan's brain. It doesn't get better than that. I've never seen or heard a good, beautiful brain like that of Justice Annan. And I just knew him at a distance a little bit as a boy, and later on observing him as speaker. When he left the speakership, I used to talk to him quite a lot. We used to meet at Golden Tulip, and he was retired in the early 2000s. There was always a Golden Tulip. Then he'll give you so much knowledge, so much information. And when you covered him as a journalist, as a speaker, his interaction with the minority, the decorum of Justice Annan's interaction, oh my goodness, it is so impressive. That's the politics of those days, isn't it? I'm going to show you an NDC video in which you see a lot of them. And Augustus Guzitano is one that many people didn't know, actually. Many people didn't know him before he came out. And as journalists, we encountered him around 1998, 99, and we thought, wow, this is spectacular for the NDC's future. Great brain, very chatty, conversational, sense of humor. I'm not so sure why the NDC doesn't do much with Guzitano's image. Because Guzi is the kind of person you can deploy in people and he will catch plenty of fishes for you. I'm not sure why Professor Mills didn't do it and make him a minister in 2009. I'm not so sure why. And then in 2012, he was ignored again by President Mahama. And then he tried to run against President Mahama. And this guy is you can use him. They haven't. Since Kojo Chikata, So I'm not so sure why. I keep asking people, where is Guzi? Why is it? But nobody says anything. Okay. But Asamoah, of course, we just heard him. One of the important minds that set out the NDC. We know of him. This is Harry Sawyer, the eternal Harry Sawyer. You're going to see more of Harry Sawyer when I play the video of the first NDC Congress, which I've played before, but I'll show it to you again tonight. And then this is Alhaji Muhammad Idrisu. Of course, he's also in that video. Forever the defense minister, brought a lot of stability to the PNDC government itself. Alhaji was the fountain of knowledge, information, and history. And Alhaji was very, very instrumental in winning the Upper West region for the NDC. And the NDC still controlled the Upper West region. Isifu Ali was a UP person from the Buzia era who became the first chairman of the NDC. That's a story about the NDC. Let's go and see the... Now, I'm going to show you now, in celebrating the NDC's anniversary, I'm going to show you now the first NDC Congress that occurred in Cape Coast. It's 4 minutes long. Enjoy it, and let's come back.
Amen. What you have young son? As I see him and son. What could I be asked to go and son? As soon as one son, break to your son, what you go son, a dear answer, a poor answer, a good answer, and another. And I did near now, near me. Ni Susio and Abam Ghana. Nana Matin Nana Maki Tresa Yakene Yada Yasuna Yasena Woman Benaya Riano and Abama Jerry John Bama John what was Yama Wunsa Saturday Wadauruma. And the money my answer way. Some never did him near Mount Wachi, now call the Hokoyano, Brabatuaso. Yaka, and you will be there. A cat non can go on your body. And the Amon, and the Abajo, and Diana, while by dinner banana tree, Nana more. When you say no more, when you pop on the floor. So I went Yako, so I didn't know. And you know, Zuchia was Zuciano. Mamma don't come from Boswell. I'm going to the show.
Here is John Rollins. Does not need any introduction to either this Congress or the general electorate of Ghana. Since 1979, and for a period of 13 years, he has led a courageous, constructive, and successful revolution to rescue our dear country from decay and hopelessness. Honorable delegates, with these credentials of the proposed candidate, I can only urge this Congress to unanimously endorse the nominations which have come from the constituencies. Long live the revolution, long live the National Democratic Congress, long live Flight Attendant retired John Rawlings, long live Ghana.
NEC ends on this lovely photograph of Nana Rawlings and Jerry John Rawlings then in 1992. Today, Jerry is unfortunately passed. Nana Rawlings has left the NDC. Wow. Anyway. Okay, let's get on with the NDC story of 31 years old. So the first NDC president produced, the first president NDC produced under the 1992 constitution is Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, with him Koi Kansanaka as his running mate. And then JJ went on to do a second term, but changed his running mate. And then therefore, in the history of this Fourth Republic, it's been only once that a running mate has been changed for a president who did 2 terms. So JJ went in on the second one with Vice President John Evans Atta Mills, who himself eventually ran as NDC's next president, victorious president in 2009 with John Dramani Mahama as his running mate, and then he died and John Mahama took over. And John Mahama, when he took over, he also won an election in 2012 with Pakwesi and Mr. Arthur, who was the vice president earlier, the governor of the central bank. And then John Mahama, running as an NDC ticket from the opposition, now chooses former debate questioner, presidential debate questioner, professor of linguistics, former vice chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, to be his running mate, also former minister for education under President Mahama's significant public credentials for Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman. So that's the NDC history of how many presidents they've produced and all that. Let me now contrast that to the. So we know that the in the Fourth Republic, the NDC had 3 presidents. They've had J.J. Rawlings, John Mahama, and President Mills. NDC had 3 presidents in the Fourth Republic. In the Fourth Republic, MPP has had 2 presidents. They've had John Agyekum Kufuor and they've had Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But the story about the MPP for this one in relation to the NDC story is that the MPP have had, they have the opportunity this time to have a leader that's not from the Akan area of Ghana. And historically, most of their leaders have been. NDC have had, well, the CPP had Kwame Nkrumah, who was from Western region, and had many people from the north in his party. His party died, and the soldiers came in, but MPP came in, and then the soldiers came in, and then the Fourth Republic came. Before then, this is how the MPP story looks. The first leader of the MPP party is Dr. J.B. Dankwa, the dreamer of the whole vision of independence and freedom and the property-owning democracy, and all of those interesting things were thought of by Dr. Dankwa. He's a philosopher, and he's also a priest and also a traditional ruler. Dr. Dankwa was the first leader of the party. And then I put here, in terms of who is the next leader of the party, Bafo Seakoto, the Ochami of the Asante-Hene, Prempeh II, because Bafo had an instrumental role at the time when JB and Co were unable to defeat Nkrumah in elections, and Nkrumah sought to pass laws that would divide the party. It was Bafo who stood firm and then sort of salvage the image of the right-wing politics of Ghana through cocoa farmers. Bafo himself was a seasoned cocoa farmer, of course. Bafo is the late father of Dr. Usu Ifriakoto, the former Minister for Agriculture, who's now running for MPP leadership. So Bafo was also very Akan. And then came Professor Buzia. In fact, it was Bafo who actually brought Buzia. Buzia is originally from the Bono region, isn't it? What we used to call Bono, from the Bono region, Wenchi. And Professor Buzia was a foremost scholar, and he worked for the Colonial Authority, and he was part of the development of the University of Ghana. He's a sociology professor, and later on he retired to Oxford to teach sociology. He was also a member of parliament for the Wenchi constituency, and that's how he became the minority leader, appointed almost by Bafo Seakoto. He also from the southern part of Ghana. And then there was the next set of leadership after Buzia in 78, where I put Victor Usu here, the former Attorney General, one of Ghana's foremost and brilliant lawyers. Usu was also from the Ashanti region, and he became leader of the party. Around the same time, William Ofori-Atta Pawele also formed another party under the umbrella of Dankwa's party. And Pawele is also from the Eastern region, isn't it? And then after that, Fourth Republic came, and the leader of the MPP during the Fourth Republic era, undisputed first leader, will be Professor Albert Edubwahi, the emeritus professor of history, who was very, very distinguished at history and in politics. Professor Edubwahi ran for the MPP's leadership and won in 1992, but he failed to defeat Flight Lieutenant Rawlings in the main election. Edubwahi later on passed during the era of John Agyekum Kufuor. Okay, so then I put Kwame Pianim here. The reason why Kwame Pianim is kind of interesting is that he was never the leader of the party in terms of the real vote. But at the time that he rose up in the first quarter of 1996, it was like wildfire. And the popularity that the MPP achieved in the 1996 election can be given to the campaign that was wrought by Kwame Pianim and his friends. That was very powerful. They brought a modern campaign. Kwame Pianim, Reku Brobe, Major Koshiga, and all the others. Victor Newman, the Alliance for Change people. They backed Kwame Pianim and they wrote a campaign. That, I think, is what shook the foundation of the NDC for the first time. That made them begin to suspect that MPP can win an election. It was the PNM campaign that got people to sit up and say, hey, these MPP people, if we leave them, they can win. That it was Kwame Pianim's campaign. That's why I put him in there, because he gave a lot of oxygen to the image and the drive of the MPP in terms of winnability. Kwame Pianim it was who gave the MPP that oxygen. He did. So I put Kwame Pianim here when I'm talking about the history of the MPP, and it has become necessary because we've looked at the NDC vice president, and I'm looking towards election 2024. Of course, John Agyekum Kufuor, the undisputed gentle giant, then became the next leader of the MPP and proceeded to become president by winning the elections of 2000 first and winning again in 2004. John Kufuor is in there. Then Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he also endured for a bit. After holding 2 ministerial positions at Attorney General and Foreign Ministry, he then became the MPP's candidate on 3 occasions before being elected president in 2016's landslide victory on the 7th of December. The biggest victory recorded in the Fourth Republic by any stretch of the imagination was won by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He's also the Southerner. So what next for the MPP in the context of this photograph that you are looking at? What next? What next for the MPP if they want to be a formidable team to do something in 2024? I think it's the Bawumia Alan ticket that people are talking about, isn't it? But they say that they've all resolved to go to the Congress. Then after the Congress, they can talk about these things. But somehow a lot of people are talking about this. This is Bawumia number 1, Alan number 2. That kind of thing will give the MPP a different leader since the beginning of their time. This is the first time they will be electing somebody from the north, particularly from the Mamprogu area. It may give the MPP some advantage. It could get other smaller tribes to feel that the MPP is the propaganda against the MPP that the Arakan party may not stick, something like that. I don't know. But that's what the focus is on right now for those in the MPP. They tell you that they want to elect a different situation. So yesterday, Alan Kyerematen went to present his nomination papers. I'll show you the pictures from there. Before I come to the Bawumia one. This is Alan Kyerematen at the MPP office presenting his documents. See Bawumia Samoa there in a big smile. And this is Alan and some of his supporters at the MPP office doing their presentation. Here they are seated, and very, very nice smile, very big smile. So Alan Kyerematen's documentation is complete. The party will proceed to vet him, and then he will now be ready to pick his spot on the ballot. If they turn up to be more than 5, there will be a mini congress, and that's what we're waiting for. Okay, on Friday then, Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia is calling all his supporters to meet him at the MPP office, the Bawumia, on 16th of June at the party headquarters. It's at 11 a.m. That's soon before mosque time. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is going to submit his forms, and he says it is possible. That's what he says. Okay, so we end that story now, and we will take text messages, and we come back and deal with the swearing of the Chief Justice. Chief Justice Tokono was sworn in by President Akufo-Addo. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's take some text messages right now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul. So coming from Barry Makwesi Kranting, he says, I remember when I was young, then listened to an economic debate by Mr. Kwame Pianim. I thought that man was superb. Now coming from Isaac Owusu-Batin, he says, in this world, Paul is simply too much. May the protection of the Lord be with you always. Coming from Solomon Na Azu, he says, Paul, please give Nana Konadu her due. She was the rock, and she has her roots at Nyaneba Estate. Coming from Al Basit, lastly, he says the Fourth Republican Democratic dispensation we are enjoying today has been made possible through the sweat and brains of many stakeholders. God bless them all wherever they are. May Ghana continue to be the top bearers of democracy till eternity. Thank you. Moving on to you.
Okay, so speaking in context, Ebenezer Anand says, Paul, you didn't mention Pa Grant, who through his resources and generosity, all these happened. Akwesi Eduse says, Afarijan was present in this NDC video. I think he means the NDC video that was shown, as an NDC member, and he was later appointed as the chairman of the Electoral Commission, and yet the NPP accepted him. So why is the NDC now in court over Akufo-Addo's appointment of somebody to the Electoral Commission, complaining that he is a member of the NPP? The NDCs are hypocrites. Coming from Akwesi Kumasi, and it seems some viewers can't stop doffing their hats for Paul and expressing their admiration for his intelligence on his submission on the history of the NPP of the NDC. Julius Amaku says, Paul, you know it all. That's why you are the best journalist in Ghana, and there are quite a few other complimentary messages. I'll take this from Isaac Owusu Boatin. He says, and all this while, where was John Mahama? I sometimes feel for the NDC a lot, and how the NDC has fallen into the hands of Esiedu Nketia and co. Lastly, Issa Abukari says, Paul is the best high-profile person. You have made my day like something. The NDC should start learning the history of their own party than insult. Over to you.
Thank you. So like you rightfully said, I mean, everybody here is like quite impressed with how, you know, deep-sighted and how informed Paul is about the party's origins. Solomon says the strength and enthusiasm of the crowd towards Jerry John at Cape Coast was originated from Nana Kunedu. I mean, most people are saying that, Paul, we need to give Nana Kunedu her due because she has been the rock of the NDC. David says, Paul, you are too much. Greetings from Germany. Lastly, Ajamang says, most educative program in our evening's relaxation. Thank you very much, Paul, and your crew.
So from Citizen Francis, this message goes, it is an insult to our collective intelligence that ex-President Mahama wants to contest again for presidency. Every day I think about this, I feel a certain rage in me and I cannot explain. Come back to do what exactly? Well, Citizen Francis, I wish you'd have indicated why exactly it's a collective insult to you. Why exactly Mahama's running again is that. Moving on, we have Junior Akbar from Tamale saying, good evening. I think the person sending our former president to court should try and leave him alone. I always pray for long life to see our former president John Dramani Mahama and DMB Bawumia to contest the 2024 election so that DMB will beat him. It goes on, today is my birthday, boss. Well, a happy birthday to you, Junior Akbar, to you, Junior Akbar, and everyone watching us in Tamale. Moving on, Atu Forsen from Tema says, Paul, it's like you left out Tony Edu. And Carlos Kamal from Nima says, Paul, I didn't hear you talk about General Mensah Wood. Why? Did he die before the NDC was established? And Idrisu Abdullah says, keep up the good work. Boa Kledi says, kindly debrief us on the happenings at Asin North. And Samuel Komi says, is that not Fred Amugi? I think he's talking about our flyer. And we've got from Ibn Aludiya, says, Apostle Paul Adum Otri, always the best. Herbert says, Paul, thanks for promoting the great NDC always. Happy birthday, NDC. Truman says, today it's an NDC Good Evening Ghana. And lastly, Mohammed says, the name Paul Ankasa. Well, I wish you'd have indicated what about the name Paul is interesting to you. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Send a message to us. Now, I'm going to share a message with you briefly, and it says, enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say, but as humans, aging and physical infirmity stand in our way, standing in the way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. Worry no more, because the portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVEs, you are sure of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. Visit Lifts and Elevators Ghana at Sakumono for your solutions and free consultations. Call us now on 0200-535-515 or email elevatorsgh@gmail.com. I'll take the number again, 0200-535-515. Let's see the video now.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. With portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVs, you are assured of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It's a self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility. Call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people. Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. With portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVs, you are assured of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It's a self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility. Call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people.
Yamawakwaba the button Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories. Ahadie e bano KSC near Wakadia. Ubenya biwa. Kabian in the house, any new here. Yansu ye wo hwenim de fu a obeso anu yi amao. Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories ye dwumedie de. Eye 24/7 o. Ye sese wo engine, wo brake, battery, yesesa wo tire. Se bano car wash dia. Ye wo abefun fidie bi ti se steamer ye de horo car engine abra nsuo nko engine nim. Ye san ye detailing metre se ye betwetwe car no mu ba bia amao. Ye wi a ya san polish car na ma o kama. Enye we no munko ye san to car batteries, tires, rims, any de keke kan. Manadum Auto Fix and Accessories ema wo car ensi ne dadem na enwu adwuma ma o. Hwehwe ye chira kwan wo dansoma na sorry dan ho a ene KFC bon hwani mu e won kran. Se wo information anansem bi se bia 024-651-9369. Nadum Auto Fix and Accessories. O kwan so yonko papa.
He dribbles to the right. He's got an opportunity on the edge of the penalty box. He's gone past the defense. This must surely be it. Goal! It's a goal!
With only 150 pesos, you can win up to 16.5 million Ghana cedis in the Betway Atina Ketia Jackpot. Aya Jackpot Muhine. Bet responsibly, not for persons under the age of 18. This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana.
All right, Hassan, Bello is here. Bello, what do you have for us? What's the latest from Nigeria? Tell us.
We're looking at some appointment of the president so far, but then this is the first family. Bola Tinubu, his wife Oluremi, and his son Sheyi Tinubu.
These are the first candidates?
No, the first family.
Oh, this is the first family?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's his wife and that's his son?
Yeah, Sheyi Tinubu.
And that's
the security interact.
Okay, all right.
And then so far he has made 2 key appointments. One is the coordinator of the Parastate House himself, that is SGF, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and he appointed George Akume, which is equally very symbolic and very important. One, he's from the North Central, a Northern Christian. You know, Tinubu didn't poll very well in the North Central. But then despite the fact that he didn't poll well, if you look at the map here, he won in Benue State, which is the North Central state, but then he lost in places like Taraba, Nasarawa, and FCT. And these 2 states equally have huge Christian minority, because he bought this Muslim ticket. But then he won in Benue State, which is George Akume's state. So it was like he paying back to them. And then secondly, appointing a Christian to that position equally tend to bridge the gap. It's like an olive branch, in as much as you didn't vote for me. I'm equally bringing somebody from your own religious, background. And then secondly, he appointed his chief of staff, Hakeem Femi Gbajamiela. But then another important thing is that Tinubu rewards loyalty. This has been his very, very important protege. He was just the immediate speaker of the outgone House of Assembly, House of Representatives. And even when he was appointed, at the time, the tenure of the legislature has not elapsed, so there were a lot of legal argument here and there. But then the another thing we need to look at, will it be the same? You know, when Buhari was in office, this argument that the government was being run by a cabal with the influence of Abba Kyari, Buhari's chief of staff, will it be the same makeup because of the strong loyalty and affiliation that, Hakeem has on Tinubu? And another important position.
Mikhail has been listening to us, so Bello, continue with Mikhail. So explain to him and then explain to viewers. Because I'll join you again on the other side, isn't it? I'll join you again.
Okay, aside the other 2 appointments, another very powerful position that he has also appointed someone to is the President's Personal Secretary. Then we have Prince Damilotun Aderemi. And there's this comparison that will he also be very influential like Muhammadu Buhari's nephew. You know, initially, Buhari's personal secretary was his nephew, Sabiu Tunde Yusuf. He was very influential, and you could remember there was this allegation or rancor within the Aso Rock at the time that he was sidelining the First Lady.
Really?
Yeah, and then because a combined, force of he and the chief of staff was seen as a cabal around the president. So the bigger question would be, having appointed his loyalist in this sensitive office, will Tinubu's administration also be run within that tight or close-knit, group? As more like a kitchen cabinet taking the decision and then imposing it on the larger one. Because Gbajamiela, being the chief of staff, coordinates the presidency, and then you have the secretary to the government of the federation, George Akume, also in charge of more or less the cabinet and control a lot of parastatals. So these 2 individuals form a very powerful force behind the administration. And then also these are loyalists.
Loyalists to the president.
To the president. They've been his men way back.
You say that, so these 2 individuals, this right here, what's going on, and then these 2 are the sort of architects within the administration.
So they will be very influential, but then we don't know what will be the influence of the First Lady, because Oluremi Kole has a lot of influence on Tinubu.
I'm just curious when you say that. You said he's the Secretary
to the Government of the Federation, SGF.
So what are his responsibilities? What are his...
Basically controls, the government itself, because he's in charge of regulating the meeting of the Federal Executive Council, which is the cabinet. He decides when they meet, who to invite. Even though we have the list of cabinet ministers, but he determines the meeting schedules. And then a lot of parastatal report to him, a lot of government things you have to report to him. So he's more like a coordinator of the government, whilst the chief of staff basically is in charge of the presidency. And another important office, like I said, is the personal secretary to the president. In Buhari's tenure, his nephew, being his private secretary, was deemed to be very, very powerful, to the point that he was perhaps seen as a rival to the chief of staff. And then to some cabinet members. And that created a lot of rancor, and the First Lady equally felt sidelined. But then these 2 appointments equally filled a balance stick. You know, I always said Tinubu is a man of consensus. It may not be grassroots consensus, but when it comes to elite consensus, he knows who to talk to, who to deal with, and what to do to bring everybody around.
You did mention that there was a particular appointment which individual sort of amassed so much popularity and influence that he was a sort of competition to the Secretary of State. Was that it? Do you think that with these two individuals right here, with this one you say is the coordinator of the government and this is more like a chief of staff, do you think that the two of them together with the sort of authority that they command can in some way begin to, if potentially they wanted to, rival the person who appointed them? For example, can we say where this individual's authority ends and where the president's extends? Can you say where the president's authority supersedes this individual, if we have some constitutional parameters for that?
I think for the SGF, it is a constitutional, or do you call it, established institution.
Okay.
I think Section 171 of the Nigerian Constitution states the powers and roles of the SGF.
Okay.
And then what do you call it? For the Chief of Staff, as usual, it just depends on the, what do you call it, the discretion of the president.
Okay.
And it depends on the kind of president you have. There's a president that may give you the leeway to amass so much power, and the president could also be involved in your activity. Because in Buhari's case, it was believed that his, what do you call it, Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari, became very, very powerful and influential. That was most like a cabal running the presidency. It only took his death and a replacement with Agbola Gambari for a bit of balance to come within the system. But then, like I said, the president's personal secretary is equally going to be a very important position. And then, interestingly, both Tinubu and Buhari appointed young men to that position because Buhari's personal secretary was his nephew. I think he was in his 30s when he was appointed, early 30s when he got the appointment. But he became very, very powerful. So will it be the case with Prince Aderemi Damilotun?
But what would you say accounts for the appointment of younger individuals to this position of secretary?
Well, I think it may be an attempt to just bring the youth in the center of power itself, one. But in Nigeria recently passed the Not Too Young to Run law that reduces the presidential, what do you call it, age limit from, I think at the age of 35 now you can contest where president in Nigeria. So this attempt to shift the balance of power.
You can contest a presidency.
In Nigeria.
In Ghana it is 40.
It used to be 40 until there was this loud agitation and a lot of, what do you call it, outcry in various sectors of the country.
Of course.
And then, like I said, the appointment equally shows Tinubu's commitment to reaching, crossing the aisle and talking to people, one way or the other, and equally rewarding loyalty. Because if you look at the North Central, where you have huge Christian minorities, he lost here.
You say huge Christian minorities. What does that mean? Huge minorities.
You see, a minority could be between 10. A minority of 10 is a minority, right? It's a very minute one. It's a negligent one. And then a minority of 40% to 45% or 35% thereabout is a very substantial minority that cannot be sidelined. So when you get to these places, it's almost equally split between the Muslim and the Christians, unlike the far north where you have total Muslim dominance. Example is even Kaduna State. Northern Kaduna is Muslim dominated, Southern Kaduna is Christian dominated. So when I say huge Christian minorities, I'm talking about the percentage. It's almost even or perhaps more Christian than Muslims. But then he won Benue State, and then George Akume coming from Benue State is the way of rewarding the people of Benue State for their loyalty. And then appointing a Christian equally transcend Benue State as an attempt to reach out to the Christian populations, or in as much as he didn't vote for me. And then what do you call it? The chief of staff, despite being a Southerner, is equally a Muslim. That equally kind of make the Muslim feel part of the, because these are two important cabinets. So you've given one to a Christian, and offered the next position to a Muslim. So it kind of balance the, what do you call it, the dicey religious, what do you call it, issue in Nigerian politics. And then these are purported, or let me say, rumored appointments. And these are equally very strategic appointments. Nigeria has been battling a lot of security challenges, but then unlike some countries that have external security challenges, Nigeria's security challenges are more domestic because you have the army operating in not less than 25 states of the Federation. So there are this belief in certain quarters that you don't need to appoint a national security advisor with a military background. It has been the norm recently. People are suggesting that the national security advisor now should either be a civilian or somebody from a more civil, what do you call it, experience. And then one of the names that have popped up for that is Nuhu Ribadu. He had a successful career as a police officer and anti-corruption chief. He was the first commissioner and chairman of the EFCC, Economic and Financial Crime Commission. And during his time, he even had to jail his boss. In his investigation, his boss was caught within the web, the IGP Tafa Balogun. So people thought, okay, well, this could be another appointment. And one of the reasons people are saying that the NSA should be of a civilian background as well. Someone who has a full spectrum understanding of security challenges and modern policing method, not this fire for fire approach of the military that some feel like might have not really worked well.
Okay.
Because insecurity is just spreading. And then another controversial figure, more controversial than Uribado, is Major Hamza Ali Mustafa. He was Abacha's chief security officer. He's a very competent military officer and a very intelligent, capo.
Okay.
It was believed that if Abacha wakes up and doesn't see Mustafa to get assurance of his safety, he doesn't walk out of his room. And that's how, competent the guy was.
Okay.
And then there was this rumor that perhaps he'll be given the appointment to lead the DSS, which is the Nigeria's Domestic Intelligence Unit, Department of State Service.
Okay.
Or perhaps he may be given NIA, National Intelligence Agency, which deals with counter-intelligence and then external, These are also two, but these are rumors.
Not yet confirmed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the previous ones have been confirmed.
Okay.
And then the the SGF has been sworn in. We're yet to see the swearing in of the chief of staff because at the time of his appointment, he was still the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And with the strict separation of powers, you can't.
Okay. What's the comment?
And then another interesting thing we need to look at is the role of the First Lady in this equation. In Buhari's administration, the First Lady was sidelined or rumored to be sidelined, depending on where you stand. But we also saw her lashing out on social media.
Okay.
But then Oluremi is very influential when it comes to Tinubu and his inner circle. And the fact that the announcement of Gbajabiamila Amile's appointment was equally made in a tweet by Oluremi Tinubu, perhaps give an indication of the kind of First Lady she would be. Perhaps a more active one than what you had at the time of, Muhammadu Buhari. Okay. And also, power could change personality and power could change event. We can't tell for now, but from all indication, if all things are equal, she'll be a more active participant in the administration than Aisha Buhari.
Okay, excellent. What else do you have for us?
I think basically this is what we have for now, but I'm still following up, look at the appointment that will be made, because per Nigerian constitution, you have to have this called federal character.
Okay.
State must have representation.
Of course.
So we look at who and who will be on the list. Would they be total pure Tinubu loyalist, or will he extend to perceive, not really opponent per se, but then people he has these differences within the ruling party.
What do you think?
And then also look at, will it be purely Tinubu men, or would there be remnant of Buhari's administration?
Okay.
Because will it be continuity in terms of party continuity, or will it be continuity in terms of policy and personnel? These are two different things entirely.
Okay.
But so far, we've seen a different approach when it comes to economic terms. Buhari was a bit more nationalistic and protectionist.
Okay.
But Tinubu is more, I think, fiscal discipline, let me put it that way.
Fiscal discipline.
Yeah, than Buhari. Buhari has more of a nationalistic economic outlook. Remember, the borders were shut down. But then Tinubu has just opened the borders.
A bit more liberal. Okay.
And that could be an indication. And then with the sacking of the CBN governor, the Central Bank of Nigeria governor, and its replacement, we could see more orthodox economic policies along the line. And it's coming to subsidies. So we wait to see.
Okay.
Will it be party continuity or party continuity cum personnel continuity?
Okay. Very interesting stuff. Thank you very much. That was Alhassan Bello giving us updates from Nigeria. We'll take text messages now and hear what you people are saying. So let's hear it from, firstly, Anastasia. Thank you.
All right, so we have a few last messages before we go. From Samuel Ofosu, he says, one major factor that urges me that Rawlings NDC fraternity cannot survive eternally and shall die soon. In my conviction, any political party that does not have traditional ties to a jurisdiction in Ghana would not survive. Note that below parties like CPP, Eagle Party, etc., all did not have traditional ties to the country and unfortunately did not survive. But lastly, on the issue we're reading, Ben from Kumasi says, Paul, I am impressed how you are still investing in the youth. People who invest in human resource, especially the youth, are always immortalized. May you never die. May you never die in this excellent youth as you are grooming. All right, I think the English is a bit problematic over there, but yeah, just like you, we're very grateful to Paul.
All
All right, so coming from Harisu Laminu, he says, personally, even though the president did nothing wrong legally, but morally, I feel the president overreacted. If the president had think twice or gave the chief the benefit of the doubt, he would have reacted differently. And lastly, from Kennedy, Paul, without Dr. Bawumia Ghana as presidential candidate for my dear NPP, then forget 2024. Ghanaians in Europe are ready to spend their last cent to travel back home to vote coming 2024. Karen.
Okay, Apostle Paul and the crew, we are always grateful for your relevant discussion, touchscreen analysis, whilst bringing clarity on current affairs. Keep up the good work. Kudos to you and the entire Good Evening Ghana crew. Nuruddin Mumuni Sani, watching you live from Kintampo. Angelo, do you have any last messages?
Tuesday and Thursday evenings without Good Evening Ghana are like eating fufu without soup. I see. The way you carry your viewers along is very commendable. You have really shaped the media landscape with high intellectual narrative. Kudos to you and your production team. He says, where is the pastor's daughter among your readers? I believe he's referring to Matilda. She's well. Kwesi Reynolds from Agona or Dobin says, great show as always. Kudos to yourself. Thank you, Kwesi. And Lord Ahmed from Tamale says, thanks for letting all the parties know their roots. It is possible. And we've got a message from our colleague Abdul watching us in Belgrade. He says, good evening, Paul. Great show. Missing you guys already. Watching live from Belgrade. Hello to you, Abdul. Now, our colleague Zibrilla was with the Black Stars who are in town training ahead of their qualifier game against Madagascar. He did a 1-minute report on this story. Let's hear from him.
Accra Sports Stadium in preparation for their AFCON qualifier against Madagascar on Sunday. All players who were invited for the qualifiers were available for training today, with the exception of Gideon Mensah, who is currently nursing an injury. Atletico Bilbao midfielder Inaki Williams and Alexander Jiku excused themselves from the squad this time due to injuries and were replaced by Hamburger SV Ransford Yeboah and also Kasim Nuhu. Coach of the Black Stars of Ghana, Chris Hilton, was optimistic of the team's chances of winning on Sunday. Winger for the Black Stars, Joseph Pentel, also said they were going to do everything possible to ensure the Black Stars qualify for the next AFCON. The Black Stars will be traveling on Thursday to play their game against Madagascar. They are currently leading Group E with 8 points and are 3 points away from qualifying for the tournament. The Black Stars will be hoping to end over 4 decades of not winning a trophy in the next AFCON, which will be played in Ivory Coast next January. Ibrahim Zibrilla.
I think it's for did Apreku leave his time? Hey. Great, that was Ibrahim Zibrilla. And from me and Emanuela and Anastasia and Karen and everyone else, we say a very good night to you. Cheers.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Let's get ready to rumble! And welcome the King of the Rings 3, Ebeye Brutal. Introducing Super Flyweight WBC silver title, Tasif Khan from England versus David Barreto from Venezuela. Light heavyweight Victor Benedict and super middleweight Ezra Ayerenka, both from Nigeria, fighting for African Boxing Union belts. Female bantamweight title Adijat Badamosi from Nigeria versus Patience Mastara from Zimbabwe. Super lightweight title Tarizan Balmoda from Kazakhstan versus Issa Aliya Firi from Zimbabwe. Super middleweight title Prince Okonate from Ghana versus Adam Anone from Cote d'Ivoire. In the WBC and WBO title fights, Live at the Bookworm Boxing Arena, Friday, 16th June 2023, 3 p.m. sharp. Rates: regular 100 cedis, standard 250 cedis, VIP 500 cedis, and a VVIP 750 cedis. Go to egoticket.com. Performing artists are Stoneboy, Medical, Beton, Jume B, Sea Prince, and more. Ebeye Brutal.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, people that don't know how to think going on, my name is Episode. Yo, beautiful people.
Keep watching MBC with Yoti.
Action packed.
This is Nelly. Keep on watching MVC.
Hi guys, my name is Basiyame and you're watching 20 Questions on MBC.
And then we'll hit you with a spanking new video. You know what I always say, once it's hot, once it's new.
Rambai Mushiwona Yori pa MBC. Spice up your life, spice up your day with cool beats and fun time.